Hello mortals, I am the goddess who created the text world of Listernia, and I would like to take a look at one of the great gay writers of the 20th century. I am talking about Gore Vidal. If you don't know who Gore Vidal is, look him up on Wikipedia because he is a fascinating man, probably known more for his historical fiction and political views. He was born into a political family and was related to Jackie Kennedy, and got into an infamous fight with William F. Buckley, the father of modern conservatism, who called Gore Vidal a queer and threatened to punch him on live television.
I know you don't care.
As far as I'm concerned, the only sort of pro-crypto-Nazi I can think of is yourself. Failing that, I would only say that we can't have...
Now listen, you
the right of assembly.
Stop calling me a crypto-Nazi.
Let's stop calling names.
You in your goddamn face, and you'll stay plastered.
Gentlemen, let's...
Bill.
Let the author of Myra Breckenridge go back to his pornography and stop making any allusions of Nazism to somebody who was in the infantry in the last war.
You were not in the infantry, as a matter of fact. You didn't fight in the infantry. You were not. Now you're distorting your own military record.
Gore Vidal had a brilliant mind, and he was extremely clever and quick-witted, and he's a lot of fun to watch in debates and interviews. But we're talking about his queer writing. Gore Vidal never called himself gay and refused to be labeled, but he had a lover, a man named Howard Austin, and they were together for 53 years until Austin died in 2003. When I was terrified of the idea of being gay back in the 80s, one of the first novels I read was The City and the Pillar, which I first read in the library because I was too chicken to check it out. The City and the Pillar was published in 1948 when Vidal was just 23 years old. It's about a gay man named Jim Willard who has an affair with his best friend, Bob Ford, when they were in high school. After high school, they go their separate ways. Jim lives as a gay man of the times, having affairs and relationships with other men, but living in the closet, because that's just what gay men did in the 1940s. If you want to know what it was like to be a gay man in the 1940s, this book gives a glimpse into what life must have been like, including even a subplot about a gay actor forced to marry a lesbian by the studio to uphold his public image. I wonder who that was based upon. It was a weird time when allies and friends of gays were complicit with gays themselves and keeping the closet closed. Of course, this is a story of unrequited love, as Jim is still infatuated with Bob from their brief high school romance. Spoiler alert, the story does not have a happy ending, but you probably won't find any happy endings in any gay fiction from the 1940s. But interestingly enough, and this is a theme in Gore Vidal's queer writing, he likes to see the gay men or the queer characters seek vengeance, almost being the bully rather than the victim. As you can imagine, at the time it was published, the book was scandalous. Vidal was blacklisted, and no major newspaper would review any of his novels for the next 6 years. Gay historian Ian Young said it is perhaps the most notorious of the gay novels of the 1940s and 1950s. Now, the next queer novel I want to highlight from Gore Vidal is probably his most infamous. It's called Myra Breckenridge, published in 1968, about a transsexual woman who, you guessed it, is out to get revenge against a society who doesn't embrace her. In the 1960s, there was a lot of experimental and psychedelic writing, and I would classify Myra Breckenridge as a real trippy story that could only have been written in the 60s. It is equal parts satire, social commentary, and absurdist humor. Myra Breckenridge was made into arguably one of the worst movies ever made, starring Raquel Welch and Mae West. Gore Vidal disowned the movie.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, what you've all been waiting for, the Man Killer.
The moment of truth has finally arrived.
The book that couldn't be written is now the motion picture that couldn't be made. Myra Breckenridge.
I'll be right with you, boys. Get your resumes out.
What's your name, honey?
I'm Myra Breckenridge.
You have all the kinky angles that are in right now. I mean, have you any that I don't know about?
Oh, Letitia.
What about studs?
They don't call you the queen of the casting couch for nothing.
There's a sequel called Myron, published in 1974, which is even trippier than the first book. In fact, it goes full banana pants fantasy, as Myra has reverted to her male persona, Myron, who gets trapped in a movie and battles with the re-emergence of Myra. One of the hilarious devices in this novel was Gore Vidal replaced the dirty words with the names of Supreme Court justices, which he did in retaliation to the ruling in Miller versus California, which defined obscenity and pornography according to community standards. So you can guess what it means when a character says, "Go suck a Rhinequest." This brings me to Gore Vidal's final queer novel, Duluth, published in 1983, which I guess is more of a camp novel than a queer novel, but it is without a doubt his most bizarro novel yet, which is saying a lot. After this, Gore Vidal stuck to historical fiction. It is the most meta story you will ever come across and reads like a cross between Inception and The Dark City. It's crazy even describing the plot because it's so convoluted and wackadoodle. Basically, it's about an author, Rosemary Cantor, who uses a computer to piece together random sentences to write scripts for a bad TV show called Duluth. The characters in the script are the deceased citizens of the real-life city of Duluth. In other words, when someone dies in the city of Duluth, they are reborn as a character in the TV show called Duluth. And if a character on the TV show dies, they are reborn as a character in a romance novel. Oh, and the author? She's a character in a book as well. What book? Well, maybe it's the one you're reading. It's obviously not a book for everyone, but it blew my mind when I read it. Remember, there's no such thing as being PC at the time, so the books may be a little triggering to some people and a little over the top. But even so, I give Gore Vidal's books my blessing and encourage you to read any of the works from one of the most fascinating queer authors of the 20th century. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. And may all the books you read be blessed.
You're expecting a youngster of 12, 13, 14 to be able to have the moral discernment of an adult.
Well, I'm not expecting anything. Look, any 12 or 13-year-old should be told everything that there is to know about sex if he's interested. And if he's going to read it in unpleasant little pornographies, that's too bad. I'd rather have him read it in other books. But I want him to know everything. Because that is the beginning of understanding of other people.
He does.
And
this
he
is
doesn't
not
have
understanding.
He's not going to run out and become a rapist because he's read that a man actually went to bed with a woman or actually got into a bathtub with a girl. My golly.
Well, this may lead him into a homosexual experience with another boy.
Well, what's wrong with that in an overpopulated world?
What's wrong with that?
Yes, give me one argument, and God knows the Greek church is, well, say nothing about the Greek church.